It's so exciting to be part of this groundbreaking evolution in our city, to see all of these different people together and meet so many new people, see so many familiar faces that are all really interested and really love food and really love and understand how important it is to our Alberta community, our Northern Alberta culture, and want to work together to provide this resilient, sustainable food system. Thank you. See, we're collaborating. So now I'm going to introduce you, I have up here with me members of the project, the Food and Agriculture Project Advisory Council, advisory board members, and they're each going to speak for a few minutes to recap what's been harvested throughout the day. And I'm looking very forward to hearing what they have to say. They will each introduce each other, but I will start with introducing Candice Vannon, who's a land use specialist. She's with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, and she did the workshop, she's going to talk about a stronger, more vibrant local economy.
Do I just sit here? Or I can sit Thank you very much. How do I summarize everything Bill Reynolds said in an entire hour in like 30 seconds? Bill Reynolds opened the morning session with a fantastic overview of sustainable economic environmental approach to development, looking at local food, local economies. He described effectively moving from commodity to goods to services to experiences to transformation, which tied in very well with the theme of the conference, Transforming Edmonton, and considering the economic development, the jobs associated with not only that kind of that chain or that loop, hopefully, but also the suppliers to that system, as well as the waste component. Emphasizing also the multiplier effect that was mentioned this morning. Again, looking at job opportunities in all parts. One thing that he highlighted, there's a real need for new benchmarks, new indicators on some of the ways that we measure or track or monitor some of these measurables in describing our food system, our local food system. And other than giving a huge example or a list of examples of everything from social enterprise to food hubs were mentioned, virtual value chains, to leveraging institutions such as Local Food Plus, to things too numerous to mention. This afternoon, we had a presentation from researchers at the University of Alberta, Emily Hubbard-Kennedy and Catherine Sprague. And the message they left us with was how to build a true social economy, looking at the connections to the traditional or conventional market economy. They stress that local food is great, but scaling up is even better. And probably their lasting points were focused on food is good, organization, of course, is better around that food. Local food should remain part of that social economy, of course, into the future. And lastly, we need to make local food more inclusive. So I think it was a wonderful start, a fantastic concurrent session. Thank you to all the participants and the speakers.
Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Hubbard. I'm a member of the Greater Edmonton Alliance and also on the advisory committee. The session that I moderated both this morning and this afternoon was around the theme of healthier, more food secure community. And in the morning, we looked specifically at food security through the lens of two agencies that are providing increased access to food, the Edmonton Food Bank and the We Can Food Society. And then in the afternoon, and it was interesting because I think for many of us, food security relates to people who are homeless or unemployed. And in the afternoon, what we learned in the morning, first of all, was that it's expanding the people. It's moving up into the middle class. Seniors are starting to access and having food issues. But what we heard in the afternoon was really food security from a nutritional or healthy perspective is something that we all need to be concerned about, and it's a growing issue that we need to be addressing. Two things that I I took away as I listened to the questions both this morning and this afternoon is that food security is really tied directly to income, fixed income, income supports, and seniors, people who are really impacted by the variances in the price of food and where food is in the city, whether it's in their neighborhood or they have to have a car to get to it. The second thing I heard is that if we give people access to food but don't give them opportunities to learn how to cook and prepare that food, then we really haven't solved the food issue. One interesting statistics for Edmonton is that in low-income neighborhoods, they have 2.7 times more fast food outlets than those living in middle or upper income neighborhoods. So the whole access to food and healthy food in stores and food deserts is a key issue. And then the last thing that in the afternoon is that we had a case study presented on the Waterloo region in southern Ontario, and it's a case study. They were the first regional official plan that actually prescribes land use related to food systems, and in North America apparently is what Jessica told us. And lots of good ideas about what worked in their process and what didn't work. And so I think that'll be helpful for us at the advisory committee to really look at what enabled them to move forward on what was a pretty divisive issue around food systems and values, and not just around land use, but just in general, that whole cultural shift that needs to happen around cheap food and local food. So thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. My name is Lisa Jamel. I'm the president of Horse Hill Community League, and I'm also a member of the Food and Agriculture Advisory Committee. I had the pleasure of moderating the Healthier Ecosystems sessions today. The first session this morning was with Don Ruzicka from Sunrise Farms. I'm not going to be able to do justice to everything that Don spoke about this morning, or even everything that our afternoon moderator, Dustin Bajer, spoke about in terms of permaculture. But what I took away from this is the primary message from Don was that farmers, nature, and consumers need to be in full partnership to care for the land. This provides a win-win-win situation for everyone. The land is being taken care of, the farmers are making a living, and consumers are getting good food. The more species that you have living in an ecosystem, the more resilient the system is to environmental challenges like drought. Don spoke about how to naturally treat water so that it is better for the downstream people. Don's advice to our group in general was, if you want to see how your food is raised and processed, is to go and visit the farms. So when you're out at a farmer's market, ask the vendor if you can come and visit and have a tour of their farm to see how it is they're farming and how they're producing and taking care of their stock. Don has a section of land, but he uses 9.3 acres, or 0.35 acres, sorry, to raise cattle, pigs, chickens, and turkeys. And that's where he makes his living. Dustin this afternoon spoke about the city as an ecosystem, how life creates the conditions conducive to life. So it's working with nature, against nature, or instead of against nature. So it's the same type of message. Everything in the ecosystem provides something to the ecosystem itself, and everything is connected. One of his major themes was building for long-term resiliency. He's working with Jasper Place High School. And he noted that they're doing their gardens in the courtyards, and that birds and even a squirrel are coming back into the courtyard from the efforts they've made from turning those courtyards into gardens. So connections create resiliency as well, and take advantage of problems to create solutions. Problems are just solutions that are waiting to happen, and you need forward-looking people taking risks to make those solutions happen. So, thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is David Gibbons, and I'm the Vice President of the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues and a member of the Citywide Food and Agriculture Strategy and the Token Male. So,
Today.
Today. I was moderating the theme under less energy, emissions, and waste. And it was really interesting sessions to be able to moderate, in that when Dr. David Suzuki was doing his Suzuki Diaries and going across Canada and identifying things that every Canadian should know about that both these speakers that I was working with were identified in that. The first was Mr. Gary Spitowski, who was an outreach person at the Waste Management Center that the City of Edmonton is renowned for setting up and operating. And he was very interesting in that the time that he's been working there for the 25 years that he's worked on, starting out as a garbage man, putting himself through a garbage collector, sorry, going through, put himself through university, that in that time, the late 70s, 100% of everything that was picked up in the by the city was considered garbage and put into a landfill at some point. And through that 25 years that he has seen that, it has now moved down to that we are less than 10% of what is picked up is actually put into the garbage or is considered garbage. So with the processes that we've developed a large cycle, and that's what food and agriculture and the ecosystem is all about, is a large cycle that could be there. So that is a very large cycle, but there's different sizes of cycles that could happen when you're doing that, whether it be taking your own local growing and being able to compost that and bring that into something that is no longer waste, but is a very useful resource in your local, whether that be your garden or even your grass clippings. At this time of the year, there still is a large amount of grass that goes through and gets picked up by the garbage collectors and comes through the waste, and then comes back to you that you have to then go to Canadian Tire and buy for $6 to put onto that grass again to make it healthy. So there was a lot of that, the cycling, the part of it that was in that discussion. So when we're coming down to our local food, where 0% is really waste, but is part of that cycle, is very important. In the afternoon, still continuing on that with what Dr. David Suzuki was with architect Shifras Kava, who has built his own near net zero house in the Beverly area of Edmonton, and has learned a lot from that. But he was talking about how we can design architecture, communities, and everything to be less energy intense and moving in that direction. Everything can be recycled. Everything can be part of that cycle that we were just talking about with waste management, but within the house. His key takeaway that I thought that I took from his discussion was that you really do need to analyze the locality and the things that you're working with. Because what may seem to be looking green and very eco-friendly on the outside, when you look at the underpinnings of it all, it could be very intense. And one of the examples that he used was in Italy, that there was something that was all built out of concrete, but then it had all sorts of green plants hanging all over it and looked very green. But when you really dug down into the analysis of it, that the building of that was very intense and wasn't a very green footprint in that point. So the takeaway was know your local areas, your local inputs that are putting into that, and do a full analysis before you go forward, because that's the only way to be truly eco-friendly and reduce the amount of inputs and outputs or waste that are coming from that. So those were the two. It was stuff that the Canadian citizens learned through Dr. Suzuki, that they come to Edmonton to look at this kind of future-looking and world-class things that we're doing here. The key part to it is that when we go back to the first speaker, Gary talked about that we're not alone in this. If you go around anywhere in the world, Edmonton is close to the top, but it's something that's from the 70s to now has changed from everything being garbage to everything around the world is being a part of it. So we are local, but it is worldwide as well. So, thank you.
So my name is Irini Calapan. I'm with Sustainable Food Edmonton. We offer the programs of City Farm, Little Green Thumbs, and Community Gardens. So I am also an advisory committee member. So I moderated session E, which is more vibrant, attractive, and unique places. And both sessions were very vibrant, attractive, and very unique. Two very different spaces and two very different scales. So I don't think that I can summarize effectively the particular sessions, but I can give you an essence of what I got from both of them. And so the first one was the municipal airport lands redevelopment, which you may have heard of. There's some public consultation around that. And the second was the Multicultural Health Brokers Cooperative Tea House. So big scale, little scale. But what emerged consistently for me was the commitment to community. And I sort of tie this to, we had a provincial election recently, and a big platform for the PCs and Alison Redford was community and family. And without those pieces being right, everything else falls apart. And so that commitment to community through the city, I see the great neighborhoods, the community leagues, at the broader level, the municipal development plan, which is the way we green, the way we grow, the way we live, and soon to be the way we prosper. And then through Edmontonians themselves and through their commitment to community in many different ways. And if this conference has taught us anything, there's definitely a lot of Edmontonians building community in all kinds of capacities and collaborations and partnerships. So with these two places, it was about food bringing community together and about land contributing to community. And so very different scales again, very different spaces, but both land and people bringing and food bringing us closer together and building community. And the connections and engagement and collaboration that goes along with food and land use. So that's what I got from these two sessions. I know it doesn't summarize what the sessions were effectively, but if you read the programs, you can pretty much tell what happened and what was going to happen in the sessions. But what I pulled from it was the connection to community and the connection to land use. So that's my summary of my session E.
So thank you to Candace, Debbie, Lisa, David, and Irene. Thank you.